let's talk about the PS5 reveal, because there's nothing I like to do more than talk about the newest, latest things right when they happen. That's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, I always go to Cinemassacre for my topical gaming news.
Yeah. Atari 2600, Atari 5200.
Turbo Express.
But today we have the PlayStation 5. Do you gentlemen have any thoughts about the PlayStation 5? Oh boy.
My number one thought was I was so happy that I didn't have to sit through a week of E3 reveals to find out what's going on.
I hate E3. As someone who's been there, I was actually at the Wii U press conference, like third row when Reggie revealed it. Just getting in and out of LA and everything. I hate E3. I am glad it is gone. No offense to anyone that likes E3, but I always liked how Nintendo directed it, where everyone does their own press conference. But yeah.
I think it's awesome that there's no E3. I think they should just drop this shit online, because that's where people watch it anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's completely unnecessary.
There's been a lot of modern criticism about how new consoles come out and there's no games. There's not a lot to talk about. And say what you will about any individual game that they announced, they did talk about a lot of games.
There was a lot of games. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I want to play many of the PS5 games. But yeah, they did talk about games.
So, out of the games that they showed, they showed maybe like 20 or 30 games. There was a lot. It seemed like it went on and on and on. I am interested to play the new Demon's Souls, because that's a game I've been wanting to stream a long time, and the fact that there's going to be a HD remaster of it, it wouldn't have mattered to me if it was on the PS5, the PS4, the Switch, whatever. Just like, I want to play a remaster of that game, so it's cool, and I'll probably buy it and play it on that. One of the things I was upset about, I'm going to get this out of the way right off the bat. One of the things that made me love the PS4 originally, I think it was one of the launch titles, was Resogun. And I was like, oh boy, here comes Resogun 2. There's no Resogun 2. But there's a lot of sort of kind of art house style games.
Yeah, it's pretty much, I would say 75% of the title are your like walking simulator journey, press up to go, like the one cat one, Stray, or there's the Volcano High one.
That cat game, Stray. Do you know, like, what do you do in that game? Because I saw it and I was like, okay, but what do you do?
It's an Annapurna game, so you probably move around colorful environments and people say things at you.
It's low stress.
It's low stress.
It's very low stress.
Oh, I like low stress games.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, I just played Comic Zone the other day and the Adventures of Batman and Robin on Sega Genesis. So I'm all ready to go for a cat walking around for 3 hours. That's great.
No, I actually really like Comic Zone. And why is my shirt a different color? Where'd you guys go? Oh, it's a different day. But I'd like to talk to you about a new PlayStation game called Warface Breakout. That's also on Xbox One, but don't tell him that. Yes, Breakout, which is not a sequel to Breakout for the TI-83 Plus, but a new team-based online first-person shooter, or a TBO FPS. Tobofopus? The game reminds me of Counter-Strike, with its fast-paced, tight gunplay. It brings me back to when shooters weren't just battle royale dancing simulators. Sure, I played a lot of shooter classics on the PC, but Breakout works really well for consoles. The controller's controls are really controllable. And unlike many modern games, Breakout is not pay to win. There's no battle pass system. Everyone gets free seasonal updates. You can pay for cosmetics, but most can be obtained through gameplay. Who doesn't want an AK-103 or Typhoon F-12 dipped in sparkly rainbow goop? Oh, and look at those knives.
Wow.
At just $19.99, you get access to everything already in the game, plus season exclusives. Season 1 just dropped in Breakout, which introduces ranked matches, new challenges, skins, knives, and avatars. Check out Breakout today to help us out. All the information is in the description below. Thanks to My.Games for sponsoring this video. And now back to the PlayStation 5.
So, I thought Stray looked good, but, the one thing that frustrated me is after the press conference happened, the PlayStation blog put out an article that kind of grouped the games into different categories.
Oh, what were these categories?
Well, one of the categories was indie. And the thing that concerned me about that is we now live in a world where all indie games have multi-million-dollar budgets and are homed by industry veterans that have made multiple titles, when Oddworld Soulstorm, which is the 5th or 6th title in the series,
aside from all the remakes,
is considered indie. I have a problem with that.
Ryan and I have been doing these videos for a long time. Years and years ago, I said to Ryan, I'm like, I want to do a show about more modern games because I'm stuck in like talking about, Pac-Man and all that. And I didn't want to be stuck in that era of Pac-Man. So one of the first things we started doing, you started showing me more modern games and more modern indie games. And I remember some of the early ones we played were like Odalus the Dark Call, Axiom Verge, and these games that were made by, when I think of indie games, it's games made by a very small group of people.
Yeah.
And that's indie?
Well, if you like Hyper Light Drifter, which is an indie game, you can play it again, but in 3D.
Yeah. I mean, I do like Hyper Light Drifter, the original game, but this one looked a little, I don't know, I probably won't be playing it.
Yeah, I mean, Solar Ash looks like it's more Hyper Light Drifter. Obviously, Hyper Light Drifter was a huge success, so now they have the budget to do more.
That's fine.
And like more power to them. But I might have wanted to see something different. Not like, oh, it's Hyper Light Drifter, same color palette, same looking character. It's just 3D now.
Yeah, everything was old. Everything had a huge, colorful fluorescent color palette, or everything was muted. Those were the two types of games. Mm-hmm. There wasn't aside from like something like Demon Souls, or I guess NBA and Gran Turismo. Every game was super art housey, like you were saying.
Yeah, some of them had more like Mario style colors, like that Astro game and whatnot. But
that was like a VR game that they dumbed down.
Okay,
I think.
I think in what the games have shown is in the eternal battle between NASA and the Marines, NASA has won because there hasn't been any grimdark space marine, like hoorah, like America shooter game. All of the games that featured shooting, you were either in space or there was some hook that made it not.
Well, it's because all shooting games have turned into battle royale games, and all those turned into free-to-play Fortnite clones.
Right.
So they're gone now. So now all they have left are art housey games and bringing back games that like Resident Evil 8 like tried in a different way.
Yeah.
Before we make it too far into this video, I want to throw out talking about Spider-Man because I think a lot of people are just waiting to hear us talk about the Spider-Man thing. So I watched the Miles Morales Spider-Man animation that came out a year or two ago, and I thought it was awesome.
Into the Spider-Verse?
Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse. It was awesome.
It's great.
So it's really cool. And I like the PS4 Spider-Man game. That was one of the best games probably on the PS4. I think it's awesome that this game is going to be probably one of the launch or one of the early titles for it. Probably that is the most interesting thing on
I think
this.
it's coming out. I think there's going to be a PS5 version of the Spider-Man game with all the expansion packs probably.
Okay.
And I'm not sure. They said that this is a standalone game, I believe. People are going back and forth on Twitter about that. But even if it isn't, it might be shorter. It might be longer. Who knows? It might be like attached to the PS5 version of the Spider-Man game. But I didn't play the Spider-Man game on PS4. I know Kieran and a lot of you guys love it.
Yeah. It's really good.
The only PS4 exclusive game I played in a while was Death Stranding, which was super used for the PS4 Pro because it needed it. So, but that's coming to PC, so play it there.
Right.
I was disappointed when like the Rocksteady Batman games fell apart. Like when they stopped making them, when like the series kind of ended.
Yeah.
And I was super happy when Spider-Man took it over. But I was always wondering if Spider-Man was going to end up being this one-hit wonder and that there wasn't going to be a solid follow-up. So Miles Morales, I love the character. I think that that's going to be really cool.
It's the perfect idea for them to come out with a sequel like that.
And I'm also glad that the Morales Spider-Man is doing well, considering that the MCU won and that's kind of over. Like, this is kind of the only thing right now.
Yeah.
Unless there's Amazing Spider-Man 3. So it's kind of like, this is your Spider-Man now, and everyone loved the game, so that's great.
Right.
I have a criticism.
Of Spider-Man?
No, not for Spider-Man. I have a criticism of Gran Turismo. And here's my criticism. When you were a kid in the early 2000s, 90s, whatever, pick up Gran Turismo 2, you could buy cars and drive them in the game that you could actually have a chance of driving at some point in your life.
Right.
Like they had Acura Integras, Civics,
Subarus,
stuff like that. You could drive like a Subaru wagon. They're like little Daihatsu delivery truck you could drive around.
Yeah.
Every car they showed in Gran Turismo 7 was a $100,000 supercar or a multi-million-dollar F1 race car.
Either trying to compete with Forza, even though then again Forza had all the expansion packs, like the Hot Wheels one, which was awesome. But
like Forza, even in Forza's marketing,
they do have some of the
At least in Forza, you could still drive like Fiesta ST, which is, I have that car, so I like that I can drive my car in the game.
I want to drive a 2008 Mazda Tribute like I do in real life.
And I want you to be able to.
That's yeah. And then I want to race. I want to head-on collision the F1 supercar.
Would you want only cars that you can drive more than real life, or are you looking for like a hybrid where they give you both?
Well, I mean,
this probably has both.
Gran Turismo is always about the progression. Like you you buy a used car with your last dollar.
Maybe they had that though. Maybe they were just being flashy and showing.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that makes it hard to evaluate any of these games.
Yeah. We don't see that much of them. So
I mean, as someone who I guess used to be a PlayStation fanboy, like the first system, the original PlayStation was one of my favorite systems. PS2 was really great, especially with the DVD player, all that. PS3, it started going off the rails with the backwards compatibility stuff and the slim versions and all that kind of stuff. The 4, we have it. I played Death Stranding on it. I'm more of a PC guy now, and more casual than anything. Like I play more DDR and 90s arcades and MAME than I do any console thing.
Yeah.
But for them to use all these launch titles games that were big on the original PlayStation, like the Oddworld games, Gran Turismo, what else? Resident Evil, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't feel the same. I don't want to play them.
Yeah.
I know I'm not the core audience of PlayStation anymore. Now it's everyone, and all the games I show this wide swath of games to be played by everyone, and that's great and all.
So you're trying to say that it doesn't
excited.
feel like PlayStation to you anymore? Is that what you're trying to say? Or?
Well, no. PlayStation's gone. Xbox is gone. All you have is Nintendo and PC games. But it's how do you want to play your PC game? Do you want to play it on your Xbox? Or do you want to play it on your Xbox on your PC? Because the Series X is just a little Steambox PC that is Xbox. Your computer now has like a game bar, and you're like, I got this Cyberpunk controller. It just connects right to the computer like it would an Xbox, and it's like I'm using an Xbox on my computer. It's just like the PS5 is probably, in my idea, the last console ever. You might have a little computer by your thing, but with the Stadia technology will work one day, maybe 5-10 years properly.
Sure.
And the PlayStation will just be an app, or it's just going to get sucked into, I don't know. But yeah, you're going to have your Nintendo and your PC games.
To your point, not to be an old man, but consoles used to matter way more. Look at how much we talk about the sound chip in the Super Nintendo or the Genesis, or the fact that, developers had a decision to make with the N64 and the PlayStation. Do I want to have more storage, or do I want to be able to push more polygons? And those decisions pepper all of retro gaming. Now we've kind of reached this homogenous point where everybody's running AMD or NVIDIA hardware. Everybody's running some type of like Intel or ARM chip. There's really not a lot of things that hardware can do to change your gameplay experience.
There was big leaps back then. The Atari, you had little boxes, and then you come out with the NES, and it's like, wow, it's an actual character. And then you take that character and you make it 16-bit, and it's like, wow, that character actually looks a lot better now. Then you make that character 3D, and you're like, oh my god, it looks even better. But now we've gotten to the point where it's like, can I tell the difference between this console and this one? Not really.
Well, that goes to your point. They can do these amazing graphics now.
Yeah.
But they're limited compared to PC gaming, because what the PS4 is like the Death Stranding. I keep bringing up Death Stranding, but they have really good gameplay for that on your PC. You just need a GTX 1060, which isn't the biggest card right now.
$200 card, something like that.
So like the RTX 2080s right now are way better than the PS5, and but game companies aren't going to program that. And considering how they're mostly art house games that are really simple, muted color, and the colors don't matter, but like low poly games, they're making it more about the gameplay. It's more about the story, and then there happens to be gameplay, like Volcano High, whatever the fuck that is. It's just.
I think for the average consumer, it comes down to more like some people not even knowing how to hook up the computer and do everything that you have to do with a PC to get all this stuff to run. I mean, where a console is easier. Like if you buy a Nintendo, it just works.
I'm not a PC master race kind of. You can't afford a computer. You don't know how it works. Even though we grew up because we were PC gamers growing up, we learned how to use tech. You learned how to program. You did all that. Now you just plug a thing in. Most kids don't even they just use an iPad to play games or from Minecraft to Fortnite, and that's it. So the market to have a high-end system that's just playing art house games. I know it's just the launch, and better stuff will come later, and I
Yeah.
totally get that. But I'm not buying it at launch.
I think that we've always given Nintendo a pass where we say Nintendo has their hardware because they have Nintendo-style games.
Right.
While the PlayStation we have today is not the PlayStation that we may remember as kids or anything like that, I think PlayStation is developing a specialty with these exclusives. And that's really narrative single-player experiences.
Yeah.
They may not be the ones you want, but there's a lot there. There's a lot of stories being told, which I think is great because a lot of PC gaming, at least the standout games, are either sandbox games or multiplayer games.
And well, the other thing is the console exclusive are all that matter. Because I talk about PC gaming, now they're all, based on whatever service you're getting it from. The Epic Store exclusive, the Origin Store, all that bullshit, Steam, like things that are locked into that. So like PlayStation and Xbox are just in the same thing. And if you can play things on anything, then what's the point? So it's kind of tough being a developer right now there too, especially an indie one like you were saying. Because like these companies or even like like Nintendo, the Nindies and stuff are only going to promote these bigger studios that can sell games.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that the feature list that Sony presented really represents a change in thought of how we look at consoles. Because if you look at, I recently sat down and watched a lot of old commercials for like PS1, PS2, PS3, all of those.
The PlayStation 9?
Yeah, right? That's a funny ad.
Yeah.
They all talk about the specs. Oh, it has this many megahertz. It has this processor. It pushes this many polygons, all of that. And now, the only technical buzzword we really have is ray tracing. And how much does ray tracing really change gameplay? Now it's
And 4K, I guess.
and 4K, but we've been talking about 4K now for 6 years.
The PS4 Pro isn't even 4K. It's like that 2K doubled
4K-ish.
ish.
Right? But how much is the leap from 1080 to 4K versus the leap from standard def to 1080?
Right.
Something is lost.
Yeah. Well, something I have to say about this is, so we have a new console here, the PlayStation 5, and you think of, how much can this do that the other systems can't do? What does PS5 do that PS4 doesn't do? Like these games are going to be able to run probably on the new Xbox. Like the Spider-Man game, for example, whatever the new Xbox is when that comes out, it'll run on that. Like you can run probably all these games. Some of them even look like almost like Xbox 360 games.
Not if the lawyers have their way.
Right.
Basically, PC, Xbox, PlayStation, they does what Nintendo don't. And that is it. Well,
Right.
except for most of these art house type games, and I don't want to make fun of avant-garde games or whatever, but those can probably run on Switch.
It's just that they buy the license. So they buy the license, to Spider-Man. So it's like, if you want to play Spider-Man, you're going to have to, play it on Sony. But my point is, like, they could, if Microsoft bought that license, they could have it run on that.
Look at Horizon Zero Dawn or Death Stranding. Now they're on PC when they said they wouldn't be
Right.
originally.
Right.
There's a few of those games that are on there that said console exclusive on PS5 for a limited time.
Yeah, for a little while it will be.
Yeah.
Until enough people buy it, and then they're like, all right, put it on PC.
Bye.
Yeah, see
Yeah.
ya. Yeah, exactly.
Console exclusives really only have one reason, and that's money. Because the people who own the console or own the platform, in the case of Steam or something like that, they don't want to pay that 30% to someone else. There are games that we've developed where we pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to make the game, and Nintendo makes more money than we do at the end of the day. Right? So, yeah, if I was Sony, if I was in a position to have the Ryan console where I get my 30% and all of that, makes huge sense to them. But does it make sense to the consumer? I mean, I guess what you guys are both saying is it really doesn't. We all just want to have our one little box that we play everything on.
It's just like, with doing other shows like rental reviews and doing all the movie stuff with James and whatever, I have to watch a ton of movies all the time, and I'd rather just stream them. But now I need to fight, is it on Netflix? Is it on Amazon? Is it on Hulu? Do I only have the DVD? Is it only on VHS and stuff like that? And now we're kind of getting into that with games, where it's hard that you have to kind of own everything or nothing.
Well, going back to what Ryan said a second ago, he says, we all want a console that I guess that we can do everything on.
Yeah.
But really, if all these consoles had unique ideas, it would be okay to have different things. The Nintendo Switch is something that the PC can't do it. The PS5, the PS4, the Xbox can't do that. So it's how much imagination they're putting into it. Nintendo with the Switch created a very unique product that you can take it on a plane. You know, it's handheld, but it's its own thing. You know, with the Joy-Cons and whatnot, it's very original, and I think that's how Nintendo sticks around, because the graphics on the Switch is not gonna match PC or the PS5, but they don't need to, because they have a gimmick, but it's a good gimmick. And Nintendo throughout history has tried a lot of fucking gimmicks. There was the Power Glove and the Power Pad and, all these different things. A lot of failed things, but some things that work. And I think, Nintendo is brilliant in that way. And I don't see the PlayStation 5 as anything more than an upgraded PlayStation 4. Nicer graphics, runs better. It's not as powerful as a PC, but it's like, what else does it have that's... Well, a lot of the games look cool, and I want to play a bunch of the games.
Of course, the PlayStation 5 is going to be an upgrade of the PlayStation 4. It's a sequel.
I know, but
the thing about the PlayStation 2 that was really PlayStation 1 was really awesome is it played CDs as well. The PlayStation 2 played DVDs. Yeah. The PlayStation 2 had DVDs, 3 had Blu-ray, and then 4 you're like, okay, you're gonna have 4K Blu-ray now? Yeah. Nope. The 5 does, and mind you, does the PS4 Pro have 4K Blu-ray? No.
So what you're saying is that PlayStation, it doesn't play the Nintendo game where they throw out these crazy gimmicks. They're just like, here's our next one, and it's going to be a little bit better. Yeah. And that's what they've been doing throughout all these years.
Well, mind you, the Xbox One X had a 4K Blu-ray player, and mind you, I like 4K Blu-rays. I have a 4K TV, so I want to do that. Mm-hmm. So if I got the PS5, I would get the edition with the disc slot instead of the digital one. Mm-hmm. But how much more is that? Like, does it matter? And why didn't you put that on the PS4 Pro when it's your technology, Sony? You own fucking Blu-ray, and Microsoft bought it from, what the fuck?
Well, now we're kind of getting into the hardware, and I think that's really one of the major differentiating factors from console to console. You got exclusives and you got hardware. And Sony has kind of sidestepped the landmine that Microsoft stepped on with the Xbox One, and that's, are we going to an all-digital future? Because they have 2 iterations of the console. They got the regular PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 5 Online Edition that doesn't have the disc drive in it. And those are the 2 versions of the console. They didn't talk anything about how much storage do they have. They didn't, like the Xbox, the original Xbox, the Pro one had a shiny disc tray. Like that was going to get me to go with the nicer one.
I'm a big Steam guy, as I said, so all my stuff's digital anyway. Yeah. And I'm fine with that. But on PlayStation now, console gamers have to get into that where all their games are going to be digital. And it's not like PlayStation Network gets hacked ever.
See, I never got really into the collecting of PS4 games or whatever, and I know a lot of people do. But if I collect old NES games and stuff like that, so obviously I get the collecting stuff. But with PS5, I'm probably for me, I would just buy the digital one because I download most of the games anyway. I don't need to own the PS5 game in the box. After a certain era, I don't really care about owning it in the box.
And at least on Steam, you can get refunds if you don't like it. I bet you can't with this.
That is the nicest thing about Steam, is that you can play the game and refund it if you're not.
And with all that DLC day one BS and stuff like that, I've only refunded one. Mafia 3 I returned, and I love the Mafia series because that was so awful and buggy and terrible. So I kind of reserve that, but for the PS5, you're stuck.
I want to be on record that I've never refunded a game. Never done it. Maybe this generational consoles will get me to start. I don't know, but I haven't.
So the console itself, how it looks. Let's talk a little bit about that. So it has these little. It basically looks like Batman. It's got Batman's little ears, and it
looks like Arctic Batman.
The Xbox One, it just looks like a black box.
The Xbox Series X.
Okay. The one that looks like a black box.
Which is, mind you, I like when my computer looks like a big, dumb black box, that's on a plane.
Right.
Even as a PC gamer, I just want it to suck the air and suck it out. I don't want it to be colorful and have all the bullshit fuck that. That's like streamer shit.
Yeah, I don't really care what the consoles look like too much. I care about the games on it.
Yeah.
That said, if you go back and you look through history at the different consoles, they have to have, for a console, you have to have some kind of, design to these consoles so that you can differentiate it in your mind. Yeah. When I think back in 10 years about the Xbox Series X, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, it's like a box, right?
It was a black cube.
At least this looks like something, which I think is a good thing. So you can be like, oh yeah, it looked like that.
Yeah.
But that's not really that important either way. What does bother me about the goddamn thing, though, is functionality. And I don't know about you, but I don't like non-real buttons. The buttons I like are this. That's a fucking button, like on this old school style register. The NES had a button. Why can't we have buttons, or even the Switch on the Super Nintendo?
Yeah, it's like a sensor pad.
I hate the sensor pad thing, because unless you have, if I had the system, the PS4 sitting right here, okay, that's fine. We got like 15 lights on. I can see it fine. But like, if you have your console in anywhere that's not the most premium spot, I'm looking down and like there's a little bit of a shadow because the chair's in the way or something. I'm like, where's the button? I'm like feeling around. Yeah. It's like if there was a goddamn real button on the fucking thing, you wouldn't have to do that, because you could be like this and go down and feel where the button is. And I know that this is like a really nitpicky thing, but can we bring back buttons?
Oh, well, now if you go to touch that button, you're going to get stabbed by the fucking machine. It's
buttons?
It's like two pieces of glass next to each other.
Yeah.
I have a button-related issue on the PS5, and my main button-related issue is, what is with the D-pad? The D-pad, they're like these weird like pizza wedges, like.
I didn't even notice that.
You know how
I didn't see
like a regular PlayStation controller has like well-defined up, down, right.
I think the PlayStation controller is one of the best ever.
I did too.
The wedges on the D-pad now are like, they're like fanned out more.
That's concerns
and they kind of bleed together. They look more like the Wu-Tang controller over there, where they're like not distinct pieces.
Right.
And I think the only company that ever was able to build a monolithic D-pad that I was into was like the original Nintendo and Super Nintendo, and even Nintendo is kind of dropped off of their D-pad game a little bit.
Well, the PC Engine had an amazing.
Mind you, the D-pad isn't used as a D-pad anymore. It's used as extra square circle buttons on the side.
For our games, it is.
Yeah,
you're gonna play.
For indie games,
it's a big deal. You need the D-pad.
The 8 directional controls. I get that, but
yeah. Absolutely. So the D-pad concerns me. It looks a little too Mass Effect Andromeda for me. With the
the whole controller looks like the banana controller that they leaked for the PS3.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like. It looks like.
Well, if you hate the controller or end up hating it, none of us have used it yet.
It's probably fine.
It's probably fine, but then there's always third-party controllers of some sort that you'll probably be able to use. In fact, with my PS4, I use a third-party controller that I like better than the one that comes with it. So it's like,
and everyone's like joking on the system, even me on Twitter. Like, there's pictures of it being photoshopped and stuff, and a lot of people are complaining that it can't be put on its side. Of course it can. They did that with the PS2, where everyone's like, "Oh, it stands up." It's like, no, you don't want that. Because me, I like sometimes I stack my system. So right now I have my Blu-ray player with an Xbox on it, with a PlayStation on it. Like, I don't know.
One thing that I'm hopeful for with not only this, but also the Xbox Series X, is that these systems may actually be designed not to overheat, because they're huge.
Oh, dude, I have like a little cabinet, and I had my PS4 Pro like in there playing it, and I just heard like, and I opened it up. It was like 6,000 degrees, and like I touched it, was like the plastic was hot. I was like, oh no, what did I do? So that's when I stacked it on. That's when I made my stack of stacking rocks in the desert, like consoles, like so there's airflow.
Yeah, but airflow is a big deal, and the Xbox 360 had major problems where like the chip would literally melt off the board during things like that. But these are big systems that probably have good airflow.
They showed like the lights on the top, like it's like a giant ice cream sandwich kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And the top and bottom had the lights, of course, it has fucking lights like that.
Yeah.
And they had fans like intake fans all over the place.
Yeah.
So it should be probably pretty good on that, but.
So this system's gonna have some older games or some older series on it, like Resident Evil, Ratchet and Clank. I was looking at that Ratchet and Clank game, and it looks really cool, but the gameplay, from what I see, I have to play it, but from what I see, it looks like every other game I've ever played in my entire life.
Yeah, I've never really been into those Ratchet and Clank games.
There was a lot of games on this system where you watch the cutscene and it's like, oh, it's going to be this great story. It's got this art style. It's got all this shit. And then they cut to a part of gameplay and you're in the same damn hallway you've been in since you played like Maximo or something like that.
Is the problem that we've played all those games and this system is clearly not for us?
They're for the next gen.
It's for people who are whatever in their teens and they haven't played a million of those games. So for them, it's okay for that combat system to be the same goddamn thing that it's been since forever because it's not worn out on them yet.
I mean, if you were an adult, like if you were already an adult, not a kid, and you had a PlayStation 1, you might have grandkids right now, literally playing the PlayStation 5 for the first time.
And you have to remember, like, those kind of combat systems, for a kid, that's new, and they're seeing that for the first time. You know, you show a kid the NES, and you sit down with Mike Tyson's Punch-Out or something, they haven't played that before, so they have to learn it. So, for us, it might be the same shit over and over, but for a new generation, they might be like, oh, this is cool, and not have a problem, you know? But... not to cut you off, but this is a new fucking system. It's PS5. It needs to be innovative.
How many times have you run down like a hallway in a cave and dodged a skeleton and then hit him with a 3-hit combo?
Every day of my life.
Every day of your life. But it's like the same thing. It's like, show me something new. Show me something bigger. Make it not a hallway.
Yeah,
put a rock in the middle. I don't know.
The thing is, they've done everything. There's nothing new.
Yeah.
You're just remaking things you already did. There is the one where there's the cat. There's 2 cat trailers. There's the Stray one with the robots, which is like your Blade Runner-y, whatever. Then there's the other one where the cat's like invisible and there's Ghost and it's very Kojima-y.
They want safe. These games cost $1 bazillion to make. They're not gonna. You want new
It's
original.
all safe, yeah.
You want new original ideas. You're gonna go for lower to price to make. Indie titles. That's where the creativity is coming from, and then they'll go. And when something like that becomes popular, then that idea will eventually make it into these games.
No, but
when
they
it's been
can't.
test proven.
They can't because Ryan said because they're considering them not indie. Like they're indie. Like
there's a new title like indie.
Yeah.
Indie.
Yeah, there's indie, and the indie guys are the ones just pulling things up again, and everyone going to school going the Cal Arts and all that. You're gonna get the same like cartoons. You're getting the same animation style over and over and over again. Like now we're just in a big loop.
But for every $4 million indie mega game, some kid in his basement's gonna make the next Stardew Valley or the next Undertale and just blow it all up. So that's the one good thing.
I'll give you that.
It's fairly easy to get your game out in the first place if you have persistence and you're willing to sit in your basement and put the time in. So
yeah, but they're usually one-man operations are really short rather than.
Have you guys ever played the Pico 8 at all?
What?
Pico 8?
There is a it's called a fantasy console, and it's for like one dude who wants to get into gaming, and it's awesome. It's for PC. You download it. It's a program, and it is as though a console existed, but it doesn't exist, and they're designing games for this fantasy console, and it's a community of people who make their own games, and there's a limit. You can't make something like on PS5. They're all very like, they look like NES games or Atari games and stuff like that, Game Boy and things like that, but those type of games and stuff you'll find on Steam is where I think originality.
Oh, so they made a platform to make indie games.
Yes,
that's cool.
It's like RPG Maker.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's cool though. There's some really good shit on there.
I have one more hardware thing. I'm so happy the controller has both a mic and a speaker in it. You don't know how many times.
Oh, and a headphone jack.
And a headphone jack.
Your phone doesn't even have a headphone jack anymore.
It's got all the stuff. You don't have to worry about it. That should have happened 10 years ago.
I do wonder if the 3D sound can. Yeah, the 3DO controller had a headphone jack.
Right.
Again, though, about the Oddworld game, that's the game that's like the multi-million-dollar indie game. Yeah. But we looked at it, like, I do want to say, like, that looks like an okay game. Like, I might play that game. It looked like one of the...
It looks the same as all the other Oddworld games. The puzzle, the logo looks like a Star Wars
You said it looked
logo.
like Lemmings or something, right?
So, So let's end this and talk about the games that we're actually looking forward to.
Okay.
I have a few. My number one, the one that won the show for me, because it's not E3, but let's be competitive.
Right.
Spider-Man Miles Morales is the game that I'm most looking for.
Yeah.
The next one that I'm pretty excited about actually is Resident Evil Village, right?
Me too.
Third, Demon's Souls. Pretty good. Looks good. I loved Hyper Light Drifter. I played it with Mike. We did talk about games.
The
about
original
it.
game is really cool.
So Solar Ash, Oddworld, and finally, and I know that this is one of those stylized games, all of that, Little Devil Inside. There's enough there. You know, I like stylized games. I like Cuphead. That's super
That was
stylized.
like the Osmosis Jones guy in the
Yeah,
gallery thing.
yeah. I think I might play that. So those were the ones that I liked.
Okay. Definitely Resident Evil Village for me. I do have a lot of complaints about 7 and where the series has gone and with the remakes that they just did and stuff like that, but I think that'll be cool. It looks like a modern day Mary Shelley, Frankenstein, Bram Stoker's Dracula like retelling, which 4 did very well with being just in the middle of nowhere compared to how bombastic 3 was, Resident Evil. Pragmata look cool. That's what the dumb cat and the guy going in space and the little girl, and it's kind of like Inception, Kojima-y stuff. Just because I'm really big on story and narrative and more like adult stuff, so that kind of, I was like, oh, mainly because I just really like movies, fuck games. So I will play this movie and we'll be happy about it. That is it. Everything else is devoid of uniqueness. There's Sackboy. There was other things that upset me. Fortnite, PlayStation All Stars Racing, Twisted Metal, Rocket
Destruction
League.
All Stars.
Which can you just make another Twisted Metal, please?
Please.
Twisted Metal Black was a little too edgy, but I just want to play as Rob Zombie again. Come on.
I want to play a new Rogue Squadron game, but that'll probably never happen. So the games on the list that I want to play, I mean, I think the obvious one is Spider-Man. Everybody's going to want to play Spider-Man. I'll probably play Demon's Souls, but other than that, there's probably a couple other games on there. But I'm curious to know if it's going to have the backwards compatibility to where you can play like PS3 and PS4 games, because on your PS4 you can download still PS3 games.
Oh, you can pay for all your old games, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you can do that, that's good. And I mean, like Ryan was saying, like the D-pad better be good, because if I'm going back to play some of these older PS3, PS4 games, there's actually a lot of shooters on PS4, more than you'd think, and I play a lot of those. So the D-pad better be goddamn good. And another thing, I wonder if it will run any of the old games better, because I know when I would try to run games on the Xbox 360, let's say, and then I would run those same games and download them on the Xbox One or the Xbox One X. With the Xbox 360, you're playing it on a disc, and some of those discs would, remember how loud the Xbox 360 was?
Oh, yeah.
When I got to play some of those games on the Xbox One X, I'd be like, oh my God, this runs so much better now. I would like to know if I'll have the same experience at all that some of those older games, if I can run them on this and have them run like a lot nicer, that would be nice. And other than the games on this list, whatever's going to come in the future. So, a lot of the stuff on the list I'm not super interested in, but I know that after the console comes out, give it a year, give it a 2 year. It's like the same thing that happened with
Stuff
Switch.
will come out, yeah.
When the original Switch, when the Switch launch came out, there was a few things, but I wasn't like overly impressed. Now there's a ton of shit on the Switch.
Yeah.
And same thing for this. 3 years from now, I'll probably be very into this.
A lot of these games said 2021, and I think one said 2022. And then there's ones like Ghostwire, which I think should probably be like a rail shooter instead of what it is. There's ones that don't really relate to me, like the Volcano High School thing, but I understand that other people do like that stuff. Mm-hmm. But then there's stuff that no one will ever want to play, like Bug Snatch or Bug.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Snatch?
What the fuck is Bug Snatch?
There's a bunch of shit, and then there's like there's just stuff that no one, like the Raid Shadow Legends 3D. What was that one called?
Godfall.
There was the Returnal, which just looks like.
What was up with the music
Tomorrow.
that they had on the trailer for Godfall?
Yeah, they had like this, like, it was like a hip hop beat.
It did not fit that at all.
That's not that.
There was some bad stuff.
That's like in the new Star Trek movies when they put in like
Beastie Boys.
Beastie Boys. You're like, what the? Get this the fuck.
What are you
It doesn't
doing?
fit.
It's rough.
But
Yeah.
I buy all the new systems.
You're like, in closing, we're all gonna buy one. It's gonna be fine. We'll see you
It's
later.
fine. Honestly, no. It's seriously. It's like fine. I bought every PlayStation there is. I bought them. I'm gonna buy this. There's already some things I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I
It's
just have
good.
one concern.
Yeah.
and that I hope you can turn the lights off on the damn thing, because I always play my games in a dark room at night, usually after work and stuff.
Yeah.
And that glowing box under my TV is very annoying, especially when it's a white box and glowing. Now it's gonna reflect, and then like the PlayStation 4 controller, when you're holding it and you look like that because they have that color on the bottom, you're like, stop that.
So at night, you want your room to be pitch black. You
That's right.
don't want to see a goddamn light anywhere.
Yeah. When that game goes to loading and it goes black, I want to pretend like I'm dead. Like this is the night.
This would be like the inside of a coffin.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
I'm going the other way. I want RGB options. I wanted to do like chasing effects and stuff.
I'm so surprised that they didn't put like the lights, like you can customize them and they're all wacky, and you can make them rainbow, and the whole thing isn't like clear on top. Like they didn't just make a little stupid fucking.
And then I'm going to plug more USB lights into the USB port and snake them around it.
Atomic purple.
Yeah, just the whole thing. It's going to be like a problem.
And they also made a system that anyone that, we know a lot of people that, and who also have game stores that repair consoles and stuff. This thing looks like the people at Pink Gorilla Games are like, oh, imagine opening this thing. Imagine cleaning this thing.
Yeah.
Imagine that thing at a yard sale in 10 years. It's going to look like a fucking disaster.
What is it?
Those little things are going to snap off in a fucking second.
What is that thing gonna look like when it sat in an unfinished basement for 5 years?
Oh, I really hope that plastic turns that yellow color like a Super Nintendo.
I just want to see the 8-bit guy in like 10 years, like, oh, we're putting the retro bright on it, like
cleaning it up.
He's got like a toothbrush. He's going at it. Yeah. PlayStation 5.
Yeah, we're all buying it, except Justin. You're not buying it, right?
I don't buy much.
Yeah. I'll buy one.
Yeah, that's fine. Sign me up.
Yeah. All right, that's enough.
Yeah.